I forgot to hit the music. Well, you win some, you lose some. Forgot to hit the music.
It's a no music Thursday because
Yes.
we're not that we're happy, but a lot of negative reports coming out of Philadelphia, so the music decided not to work today.
Yeah, we're also, as you can tell, I'm in a very pink and not clearly not my room. I am in my fiance's childhood bedroom running this pod at the moment. So
That's
we're
called
not
dedication.
yeah, we're not in the studio. We don't have all the equipment that we're used to having here. And apparently the music is part of that. But the show goes on anyway. And I think the big reason that we felt like we had to get this one out one way or another, because typically if one of us isn't home, we'll just kick it to another day. But I feel like this Ace Bailey news is worth bringing up because for a couple of reasons. One, he seemed for the longest time to be the pick at 3. It was, you could do VJ Edgecombe if you wanted to, but it felt like, I think you and I even talked about it. It felt like drafting a role player number 3 in the draft, which you really never want to do. I mean, you want to get a difference maker at 3, and Ace Bailey felt like his ceiling was a lot higher. Then, some reports started coming out that he wasn't taking any workouts. And then quickly afterward, it seemed like that might have just been all smoke because he booked the workout with the Sixers. Everything seemed to be fine. And then that workout didn't happen, which is one thing. The bigger issue, and I'm sure you also read this, is why that workout didn't happen. There wasn't a scheduling thing. It wasn't an across the board thing. He wanted a promise pre-meeting that we are drafting you at 3, which is why we're having the meeting. We've never seen you. We've never seen you play, in our facility, running, certain drills or whatever. Like, we haven't seen you work out. We haven't gotten to interview you. You haven't met with Nick Nurse. Like, all the prerequisites that typically go into the draft, you've done exactly 0 of. So we're not going to say, hey, we're picking you at 3, come work out for us. That's putting the cart before the horse. And when he didn't get his way and then he canceled the workout and decided not to work out for any NBA team, I mean, it's got real like Shedeur Sanders vibes. And I don't know if who won't fall as far as Shedeur did. I mean, that was an anomaly, but I don't think he's the right call for the Sixers, a team that's already so lacking in culture. If this were the Eagles, I would say pick him anyway. That team's strong enough. The culture's strong enough. They'll mold him. The Sixers aren't like that. I don't see that working out well in that building at all.
Absolutely not. I mean, you said it best. There has to be a culture in place there. If you want a pre-draft guarantee that you're going to be drafted by the team, visit with them first. Crush the workout, crush the interview, and then ask for the promise. Like, even that seems like a little much, but like, if he asks for it after he crushes the meeting, members of the front office go, yeah, we're going to draft you if you're on the board at 3. That's the latest he'll go. But going into the meeting, I don't understand. I think there's something afoot here, as the people would say.
Yeah.
Either he wants to go to a team to be the guy, like a Jazz or a Nets, or the Spurs have promised him in a trade that they're going to trade down and take him there. But it kind of feels like he's purposely tanking his stock to go where he wants to go. That's what I'm getting the feeling of.
Well, there was a report today that his camp, which look, I mean, Ace Bailey's 18. I'm not sure how much he has his hands on the wheel here, but it sounds like his camp had said that he values the ability to become a star in whatever team drafts him, which lines up with kind of what you were thinking might be the case, is that you can come to Philly, have the mindset of a Jared McCain of just being like, look, they need me to do these 3 things extremely well. That's what I'm going to do because they already have Joe, Maxey, and technically Paul George. I mean, that's the attitude you have to have if you're coming into a team with championship aspirations already. It seems like he wants to go somewhere, like completely, devoid of expectations, devoid of a lot of talent, to where he can show up and score, 20, 22 points a game as a rookie and get all those kind of accolades, but not actually win any basketball games. which, for what it's worth, is what he did at Rutgers. I don't think he and Harper, who is a exceptional basketball player. It's amazing the scrutiny that they've dodged going to Rutgers, 2 top 5 picks, number 1 in the class, and missing the tournament. I mean, Ace Bailey hasn't won anything yet, and it doesn't sound like he's overly interested in winning anything at the next level either.
It's tough when you're scouting from teams that have missed the tournament. We talked about that last week with how the Sixers had a little trend of that going there. But you gotta want to win, and it's hard to determine someone's character. But like when the reports are kind of painting you in a bad light, it's really easy to start assuming things that maybe aren't true, but maybe are. I mean, did you see the tweet with Stephen A from like 2 days ago? It was John Moran, I think, tweeted at him. Yeah. And he's like, it's like, simmer down, buddy. Like, and he started like spreading gossip.
A. Smith sucks ass.
I mean, he was playing solitaire during the finals. That's insane, but that's besides the point. I was just using that as an example to say, sometimes reporters aren't always right or in the right, and they're, doing the right thing. I don't think that's the case with Ace Bailey. I think they're, reporting straight down the middle because you've heard it from multiple sources and you've heard it from, everyone's saying it's taken a wild turn. And so and
he's not one of those. He's dodging everybody. He's not.
He's dodged everybody. Yeah, it's insane.
It gives the impression, again, of kind of similar to Shedeur. Although I think it worse. I think, Shedeur was misled and seems to have a decent head on his shoulders, possibly. But
I'm not gonna ding him for it, but he had to get caught for speeding like 2 days ago.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
But it's nothing serious. Like, the team, it's not right, but
he's been doing the right thing seemingly in the pros so far, except for speeding. But this kind of has that feeling, and one of the reasons I don't like him is not Shedeur Ace at this point, is you haven't proven anything. I mean, I feel like you had a good 1 year at Rutgers. You didn't bring your team to the tournament, and it almost feels as though he thinks he's above this draft process. Like, I don't need to do that. You've seen me play. This is beneath me to come do these workouts, and that is the opposite attitude you want out of a rookie. And we brought it up a little bit earlier about which teams could take this on. Miami could take this on, and I mean, you're going to either mold to their way or you're going to get left behind. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, Houston's building. Like, there are teams that with a real Oklahoma City and Indiana, 2 teams in the finals. Like, there are teams that have a culture in place that could mold him into what he needs to be. In Philly, that doesn't exist. I mean, you have, I love Joe to death, but you have your star player who can't quite seem to get on the court. You have PG, who, when he's not on the court, is still podcasting and talking about everything but his own team. So you just don't have that strong leader who's going to make him put the time in. I think he could hurt the culture even more than it already is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the league does, because I think Shedeur, his draft grade was a little high, but I also think that the league wanted to kind of make an example of him a little bit. Mm-hmm. Of don't skip the process. You're not bigger than the process, and you're going to fall a couple rounds because of it. I think he should have been a round 3 guy, and he fell round 5.
Yep,
like that was a little far, but
there's malice there for sure. There was
a little bit. I think it was partially he was overhyped, and partially that the league wanted to make a little bit of an example out of him. And I don't know if they're going to do that with Ace Bailey, because basketball is a different sport, and it's 11 in a rotation typically instead of 53 on a football team. So like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how far he's going to fall. I don't think he makes it out of the top like 6 or 7, because I think these teams are desperate for talent. The Wizards fell out of the top 4. Yeah. They're desperate for talent. The Jazz, if they trade away Markkanen, they're going to be absolutely starved for talent as well. So I don't think he's going to fall all that far, but I think you can X off Philly right now, even though the report said Philadelphia still might take him.
So I think
I
it's
think
green.
I think you could cross it up. I think Edgecombe. I think you could almost write that pick in stone unless they moved up or down.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think he's gotten and possibly an unfair rap, myself kind of included, because I mean he wasn't, you know, he's not this flashy, could be a not a Kevin Durant prototype, but Ace Bailey has all the tools that the NBA looks for, like kind of right now. I mean, he's between 6'8" and 6'10", depending on what you go with. He's got a lethal jump shot. Like he's kind of the prototype that a lot of, you're looking for, and he can score in bunches. VJ Edgecombe is a little bit more. It is drafting a role guy most likely in your top 5, but again, if you're the Sixers, you're not short on star power. I think you do draft for need. And if I can get a guy who, in college averaged 15, 5, and 3, I'm fine with that. I mean, I need a guy who is comfortable, can impact the game without the ball in his hands. I think you're watching a masterclass in that with the Indiana series. Pascal Siakam was the third option most of the year. The playoffs dictated that he needed more touches, and he's come up huge. I'm not saying that VJ Edgecombe's ceiling is even that high, because Siakam's at least a one-time, possibly two-time champion, depending on how the series goes. But we need a guy like that. You need a do-it-all kind of guy, a guy who can get you a bucket if you need it, get you a board if you need it. Can make his own offense, doesn't need the ball. He's got some Swiss Army knife tendencies to him, and for what it, and he was in the he played the tournament, which does mean something to me at least.
Yeah, postseason basketball, you get that experience. I mean, I wanted to check on the game as well. The Pacers are up right now as it stands, but who knows if that'll last with how wacky the series has been. But you need these guys. The era of the second apron, like I said, we had that discussion last week. You need these role players. You need a lot of them. You need the two guys up top, and then you need a ton of role players, a ton of Jared McCain's, a ton of rookies on cheap deals. Quentin Grimes, on his last deal would be a great example as well. Like, you never have enough of these guys, but the time will come to pay them all, and it's windows are shorter in today's league, so the turnaround should probably be way faster if you have the right pieces.
Yeah, and that's why you got to plan to replace these guys already. But we were kind of we were talking about what that tournament run meant, and what that what playing against that kind of competition looks like. And when you go back through Edgecombe's tournament run, look, starts off really great games in the second round of the quarterfinal. 23 points on I think it was 44% from the field, 19 points, almost 50% from the field. Couple bumpy games in the middle, 11 and 14 points respectively, before a pretty efficient game against Duke, 16 points on 50% shooting. But beyond the points, because that's not all he does. I mean, I'm looking at the rebound totals: 10 in the quarterfinal, 7 in the first round, 6 in the against Duke. I mean, he's impacting the game in a multitude of ways, which I think is what some of the Sixers could need, because we do have a decent amount of semi one-dimensional guys.
Mm-hmm. And you never know with good coaching what these players could turn into. I mean, I don't think the ceiling's there, but I don't think anyone thought the ceiling was there for Giannis or Jokic or any of these guys. So it's all just how good can you draft? And like we said, Daryl Morey's earned our, the benefit of the doubt with us, because he's just hit after hit after hit after hit. But we're used to disappointment. Like, I remember the Mikal Bridges pick. It was such a slam dunk, and we talked about that one a lot too. But
the pick and trade, yeah, he's overall done pretty well in the draft. You could argue he gives up on the Sixers have given up on talent.
Well, that was Colangelo, wasn't it? That was Daryl Morey. The Mikal Bridges one.
That was Morey, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
It definitely wasn't Colangelo. It was either Morey or Morey or Brett. Remember that one year Brett was GM?
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that real quick while you start talking about the the next top because there's some other stuff across the parking lot.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess kind of speaking of cultural issues or locker room culture issues, that's not something you ever really associate the Phillies with. We've been super fortunate that way. And this is probably a bump in the road, but it is worth noting. Nick Castellanos had an Iron Man of Iron Man streaks. He hadn't sat out a game or missed a game since the fall of 2023, I believe. I think it was September of 2023. So an incredible streak. I think I don't want to say it might have been 237 games. Longest as a Philly, second longest active in all of the MLB. Came to an end because he was defensive subbed out in the ninth for Johan Rojas, who is, by all accounts, a superior defender to Nick Castellanos. Let's get that out in the open. When Nick went to the dugout, he made a comment to Rob Thompson that Rob deemed unacceptable. I don't know if we'll ever find out what was said, but Rob is typically a player's coach. He's not one to rock the boat. So whatever Nick said, he sure as hell got his money's worth. Because for Rob to bench anybody, you really got to get on his bad side. For him to bench an Iron Man in the middle of an all-time streak, that had to be just a devastating sentence. And I have a theory as to why he blew up in that moment in particular. So it was, I believe, earlier that day, there was a report that came out ranking the worst defensive right fielders in baseball. And Nick Castellanos, if I remember correctly, was in the bottom 5 in the entire league, might have been last, which I don't think is fair. I don't think that's accurate. But nevertheless, I'm sure he took that some type of way because he does take pride in his defense. You can hear him talk about it. He might not be great at it, but he takes a lot of pride in his defense. And I can only imagine that you get that report, you feel like shit, or you feel frustrated. The league thinks you're bad at your job. And then to have your manager pull you in the ninth for defensive substitution, now all of a sudden I feel like my own managers have my back, and he feels like I'm bad in right field. So I can see how you get into that headspace. I don't think that's the case at all, but I can completely understand how Nick got to where he was at.
Yeah. Also, it was Elton Brand, by the way. So,
oh, geez, we were
for GM of that team. But anyway,
it's part of the problem. But anyway,
yeah. Anyway, on the baseball, yeah. The chart pull up told me all I needed to know about that about that moment, about how fired up he was.
Yeah,
it's he saved the game right after he got benched. It's pretty ironic how it all played out. It definitely got to him, especially with the emotion he showed after the game. Obviously, his teammates were all happy for him because,
yeah, I mean,
he's one of the guys in the locker room that's been there for what feels like forever, and he's always been a solid team player. So it's like the players have his back. It's kind of weird that the drama leaked to everyone so quick. It feels like usually stuff like that doesn't get out.
What about why he was sitting?
Yeah, about why he was sitting, about the comment made about everything. Like usually the Phillies keep it really tight-lipped, and then for this reason they weren't. I don't know why this time they chose to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it.
Well, Rob addressed it head on. Like
that's
Nick sitting, and that's the reason. I was like, whoa.
That didn't sit right with me. I'm kind of off the Rob Thompson bandwagon. I've been off of it for a while. Obviously, it's not all of his fault, but I'm pretty off of it. I think
I'm one of the people though. Like, you're never going to find a perfect manager. Who's out there? Like, who are you looking around the league going, that guy would get us further?
I really want to say Howie Kendrick. I really do. That
just came up today. No,
it came up like a couple days ago, but I've been managed. It's one of those things where the interim manager got us over the hump the last time. I mean, why not again? But
the current manager is one of the winningest managers in Philly's history.
It's different this time around. I know Girardi wasn't anything special, and Rob helped us.
We're third in the National League.
I know we're doing fine, but it's still like that goal is never going to be reached, and I don't care regular season accolades, how far he made in the postseason. If you don't lift that trophy, it was a failure. And I think we've talked about this a lot too. We are desperately close to failure territory. Like we're lingering, or we're getting there.
I mostly agree with you. I don't I don't necessarily look at Rob's tenure as a failure if we don't win one. I mean, obviously that's the end goal, but I'd be harder on our manager if it was somebody who we brought in, who was supposed to fix everything right away. I mean, Rob was the interim, got thrown into the job, did a sensational job, and has turned the Phillies team pretty rapidly from what's Red October to the point where you and I are having this conversation where third in the NL is not good enough. And it's not. I agree with you. But just think of what he's overseen and the shift in this Phillies team's culture and expectation. Remember how we were partying in the streets to be a wild card team, and we fell ass backwards in. We lost and made our way in, and we were throwing a party. That was 2022. We're 3 years removed from that. We're sitting here a third in the National League, acting like the sky is on fire. I mean, in a certain sense, Rob's a victim of his own success. He's made this team so consistent and so good that the only thing good enough now is a World Series trophy.
Yeah, that's tough because the team's older and you can see the cracks now. Like you could really see, with Bryce out especially, like you need someone to carry the load offensively, and Trey's been doing that. It feels like Trey's starting
Trey and Alec have been unbelievable.
Yeah, Alec Bohm, it's just the roller coaster ride at the city is just up, down, up, down, up, down.
You enjoy it while it's up.
Well, one moment they want him gone, one moment they're praising him for All-Star game starter. It's just it's crazy, but when you're by the city, you understand what they're thinking and how they get to these thoughts. But it's just so unique. Like he is a victim of his own success, but I still look back on that Diamondback series. I know it wasn't entirely his fault, but man, putting Craig Kimbrel in the time after, I forget which game exactly it was. I think it was 6.
It was after he got rocked in 5. We put him. No, wait, was it 6 and 7?
No, we didn't put him in 7.
Okay,
it was 5 and 6 because they didn't put him in at home, and so
it would have been.
It's that decision that kind of haunts me because, like I've said many times, that Rangers team was so beatable.
Yeah,
but
look, if there's a coaching change I would like to see made sooner than later, I don't think Rob is coaching change number one. Now, he's culpable in this. I think Kevin Long has absurdly strong job security for a Phillies team that is loaded with bats and has consistently been inconsistent. If you want to talk about changing the coaching staff, I think his undying love for Kevin Long is a flaw. I'll get on board with that.
Yeah, I'll take whatever change we could get. I mean, you have to shake it up somewhere, and we've talked about trade deadline. We've talked about, Devers just got traded, so look at the Red Sox.
Yeah,
ridiculous in its own right, but they say they want to be buyers, so we'll see down the line.
I think they're posturing, but I've heard the same thing too. But
I agree, but it's just
I would call and see what the price on Durant is.
There's not much out there. It feels like at the moment, and how else are you going to shake it up except if it's the coaching staff, which I agree. If Rob might be too big of a drastic change middle season, I think he's an off-season kind of thing where you have a whole off-season with the team, the new manager. I don't think it's an interim thing, even though, like I said, it worked when we fired Girardi. But I think if you fire the hitting coach, I mean, that should be the jolt, the wake-up call, but it also might be seen as kind of a slap in the face of like the hitters that are doing good, like you said, the Alec Bohms and the Trey Turners. Like,
yeah,
you have to toe this line when you know there's 2 mega rosters out there with the Mets and Dodgers. Like, it's so tough to toe the line and still get the ultimate goal.
The Mets are catchable though. Their starting pitching starting to regress finally.
Oh, the Mets are catchable. It's the Dodgers, the ones that everyone's worried about.
And hey, I mean, just If we meet the Dodgers in the NLCS and give me a series, I'll be proud of this team. But I don't know. I look around the league. The trade that keeps coming back as an option, I don't think fills the need. But I've been seeing the Batista and Mullins headed our way in exchange for Mick Abel. Which, I mean, our opinion on Mullins has been the past 3 weeks. I think everybody knows where we stand. I don't think he's the player he used to be, or the player that a lot of these Bleacher Report, 30,000 feet above looking down reporters, think that he is. But it would be a marginal upgrade on the outfield situation, although Brandon Marsh has stepped it up lately. And Batista's the prize there. And as much as I love Mick Abel, and I think he's been throwing the hell out of the ball, you could make the argument that he's kind of blocked or limited at the very least. So if there was somebody expendable of those young guys, it is kind of Mick, but it would hurt me to lose him because he's starting to prove himself that he can hang at the big league level. And Andrew Painter, while he should be great, has yet to do that. But we're going to have to sacrifice somebody. And if I guess I had to pick someone, it would be a guy who's maxed out as our 5th starter at the moment, and that's Abel.
Yeah. I mean, there could be the argument to trade Painter. I think you could bring up that argument in the near future if Abel keeps dealing like this.
I would listen. I think a lot of Phillies fans would call us nuts, but I would listen.
They would, but you have to at least consider it. I mean,
I'm watching Abel do it. Like the thing that they're saying Painter might be able to do, I'm sitting in front of the TV watching Mick Abel do it.
The return might be borderline insane for someone like Painter, who's that high caliber of a prospect. I mean, we've seen prospect packages in the past net
That's
absurd amounts.
You call Oakland and you go, look, what's it going to take to get Miller and Brook over here? And they go, look, I know you're not going to trade Painter. That's what it would take. Done.
Yep, done. Shipping on. I mean, their team's a little too fun though. At this moment, they're having a little too much fun, but they're running out of spots to put guys. So I totally agree with you there because if they call up another prospect, I don't know where they're going to put him.
He would mash in Citizens Bank, dude.
It'd be ridiculous. But like they had Lawrence Butler at first, they had Soderstrom down there, then Nick Kurtz came up, and then you have other guys waiting in the wings. It's everyone's just moving around like
it's a merry-go-round out there.
It really was. Like Rooker was the DH, and they're like, you can't DH no more. Soderstrom has to do that. Oops, someone came up the DH. Soderstrom, you're on third now.
So then give him a call. Be like, hey, look, man, I know it's getting complicated out there. We'll bring
I think Soderstrom's in the outfield now. I think they're still playing musical chairs out there, but if they want to get rid of someone, Philly should be the first to make the call.
I agree. I mean, now might not be the best time, but Nola, which I want to make this super clear because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like clutching their pearls and freaking out about it. The fact that they put Nola on the 60-day IL doesn't really mean what people seem to think it means. He's not out another 60 days. Like the 6-day IL extends him to, I believe, July 14th. I tend to think he'll miss the month of July. But the people that were panicking, they're like, oh my God, 2 months. He's not back until the playoff push. No, he can come back anytime he wants after the 14th. I just don't think he will. So in the meantime, having a guy like Abel has been tremendous because Nola wasn't having a great season. And what you're getting out of Abel right now is arguably probably better than you were getting out of Nola, save for the fact that Nola goes deeper in the games and Mick tends to top out around the 5th inning right now. But he's 5 good innings.
He's young. It's what it is. I mean, some of it's Rob doesn't want to overextend him, it feels like, because he got pulled against the Blue Jays where he had
79 pitches. He was yanked. Could have gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of it's not wanting to overthrow him this early in his career, but it's nice to have this luxury of absurd starting pitching, especially when someone like Nola goes down, who was struggling, but you hope he turns it around, even though it is an odd year. Just saying, but it's interesting what this team's gonna do. I don't know. They're really puzzling me right now because They want it to align, but the line, you could go either way on that line, and they're going to tow it till the trade deadline, and then they're going to make their final call, and then Nebraska's either going to make his big splash move, or they're going to count these young guys to come up and start contributing.
Yeah, and I would like to see the splash move, a move that I think a lot of really, you got to really follow the team, but a move that I think Phillies fans are excited about. The Weston Wilson experiment finally ended. He got sent down today. Buddy Kennedy got brought back up, who I think is a much better hitter than Weston Wilson is. And it's worth mentioning, this is probably the thing that we close on, it's over 30 minutes, but Otto Kemp has looked very at home at the major league level for a guy who, and this is where I was wrong a couple weeks ago, he was undrafted in 2022, flew up through the system, and now he's played first, third, and I believe they have him platooning in the outfield now a little bit. So he's played everywhere. He's hit. I think he's come up. I haven't watched the last. I didn't watch the last game, so I'm not sure where his average sits. But at one point, he was sitting at like 345 at the major league level. So
it's down at 282 now. So, but still
hitting. So, if you still need to make a move at the deadline, but just these little marginal moves, like bringing somebody like him up, finally giving up on Weston Wilson, bringing up Buddy Kennedy. It's little moves that tend to help.
Yeah, and I think they waited too long. They were the last team to have someone make their major league debut this season, so I think they did wait a little too long to bring up the help. They kind of experimented with what they had on the roster, and it didn't work out. And they started bringing up these guys, and they've been contributing in short spurts. And what more can you ask for?
Not much more. So we'll see. We have some time to go. We have a couple more episodes before the deadline. But me personally, I'm going to go catch the second half of the finals because it sounds like Indiana's going to pull this one out.
They're getting there. It's going to be a fantastic Game 7 if it reaches that point. We'll see if Halliburton plays. I think he's out tonight, right?
No, he played.
He played, really.
He
okay.
Played.
News to me. I haven't been around
very
my
hurt,
phone.
but he played.
I haven't been around my phone for the past couple hours. I didn't know that. I thought he was just out because that injury was
should be out. They said they stress tested him and he was able to go.
What a baller.
So speaking of going, we're about to. So we will see you all next week here on the Passing Report. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. I'll never get that right. And we'll see you next week.